Hi everybody, welcome and congratulations, you've climbed the stairs to this wonderful room which is called Engrenage, so in English Gearworks. So I think it's a very good name for the discussion. We're going to be talking about technology, but also as Gearworks, as taking things together, harmonizing also different cultures, finance, tech, climate. And so I hope we'll all take together this morning. First, what I propose is that we get to know each other better. So we start with a quick poll in the room. So I want to know who's from a banking or insurance large institution. Please raise your hand. Okay. Any startup, founder or employee? Yes, okay. What else? Professional services? Good. You're the only one, but you're representing. And public administration or regulation? Also, okay. And any students? We've been told that there are also students here. Okay, no students, probably on the web stream. Right, so my name is Vincent Ruinet, and I'm very happy to host this panel, which is called Fintech, Technology as the Cornerstone of the Transformation of Finance. And I will add green finance, obviously. Personally, I've been working at the intersection of climate and finance for 13 years in project finance, in banking, in the Ministry of Economics, and also in the energy company Engie. And now I'm investor at Future Positive Capital. So what we do with Future Positive Capital is we invest in early stage companies that use advanced technologies to advance humanity, so in the fields of climate and health and social. And today with me, so I'm very happy to have Tanguy and Marianne, who really represent French-based world leaders in tech, so in insurtech and climate tech, climate risk mitigation for Tanguy, carbon accounting, and for Marianne, and Thomas, who's doing a wonderful job with ECOLAB from the Ministry of Ecological Transition, animating the climate ecosystem. So I'm very happy to have you guys, and so please each of you introduce yourself and your institution. And can start with Thomas on the left.
Hello everybody, I'm very happy to be here with you. So I'm head of ECOLAB. ECOLAB is the innovation department for the Ministry of Ecological Transition, Territories, and also energetic transitions. Our aim is to accelerate the French ecological transition by innovation. One of my team is in charge of the private animation. We animate the French ecosystem of green tech. And my other teams are in charge of public innovation. We try to overall to improve the impact of our public policies, our environmental public policies. We want them to be more focused and more efficient, thanks to specifically data, artificial intelligence, tech, and design.
Great, thanks, Thomas.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marianne Vincent. I'm VP Climate Finance at Sweep. So what's Sweep? Sweep is a SaaS platform that helps corporates and financial institutions to calculate, reduce, and communicate on their carbon footprints. And in September, we launched our Sweep for Finance product to help financial institutions to calculate the emissions from the investments and connect with the portfolio companies to reduce collaboratively. Today, there's a lot of challenges around these finance emissions and transparency about that. So it's clear to have like a fintech to take this into account. And before that, I spent 15 years in the finance industry, working with various banks, so at the intersection of climate and finance as well. And before joining Swink, I was the CEO of Carbon for Finance, and typically working a lot with asset managers who were struggling to calculate the climate impact of their portfolios.
Thank you. So hi everyone, Tanguy Touffut. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Descartes Underwriting. So Descartes is a relatively new company. We were created almost 4 years ago. We are really operating both in the insurtech space and the climate tech space. So our clients tend to be very large corporations across the world. So we are actually have exposure in 40 countries across 20 perils. We typically cover, we try to innovate in the face of climate change. So we typically cover wildfires, floods, hurricanes. It could be low river height. It could be hailstorms. So it's a very climate related, what we call natural perils. And prior to creating Descartes, I was an insurer. So I've been working for many insurance companies as a consultant first, and then at AXA.
All right, so that we all know each other in the audience and here on the panel, and hi also to everybody that is looking at us on the live stream. Let's start. So I'll be very quick for setting the scene, because I think we all are experimenting the change of climate. To give you a few data points, so global temperatures have already risen by 1.1 degrees since the pre-industrial times. We see that the effects of climate risks, are in frequency and in severity more and more acute. Something like the GDP of Denmark, like 300 billion, is lost every year due to climate events. And another striking fact is that since 2000, 4 billion, so billion, not million, billion, 4 billion people have been affected by climate events. So what to do? Today we'll try to see how technology and finance can help fix this issue. And first, what I propose is just to give a definition of green finance, because we're thinking about green finance. Is it greening the financial industry, helping green financing increase? Well, so at Future Positive Capital, the way we see things is that money flows have to now to take into account all their externalities. So corporates can not only look at what they are doing, their business, but have a holistic view on the effects on what they do on their activities. So, and I think that's a great way of looking into green finance, is identifying those externalities of money flows. So after this definition, let's dig into the topic. Tanguy, let's talk about tech. Could you give us some view about the technologies that have emerged recently that really are changing the game in the insurance and finance industry?
In the climate insurance space, I think there are a few game changers. The first one is really satellite imagery. So some of you may say that satellites were already operating since the 70s. But now the level of granularity and the depth of data we can get from satellites is quite amazing. So typically when we cover wildfires in Australia or in Chile or in the USA, we don't send loss adjusters on the ground to assess the damage. We just use artificial intelligence, so we use neural networks to be able to identify if a tree is burnt or not. And the granularity we can get is about 10 meters. And this is basically thanks to the latest technology. So it's, I'm talking about the satellites that were launched in 2016, typically the Sentinel satellites. And there are more and more satellites that are providing more and more data. And at the same time, the machine learning techniques or the artificial intelligence techniques are progressing very fast. So we have more data sources, and at the same time we have better means to better interpret all the data we can get. So we are becoming more and more accurate in our understanding of climate change, and we're also able to build new solutions to better cover our clients, again, in the insurance space.
Okay, that's great. So thanks for this view around InsurTech. Maybe Marianne, you can give some insights about what's happening in the fintech, climate fintech space in terms of technologies.
Yes, so at SWIP, we really think that finance has a crucial role to play, because with their trillions of dollars of assets under management, they got even more power than some like countries, because for example, like the asset under management of BlackRock is 3 times the GDP of France. But they've got the capacity to invest. They've got the capacity to innovate, because like we can see a lot of green tech, agri-tech, etc. Like the new solutions, the new business model to go towards like a low carbon economy will come from this private market and these small companies. So definitely we need some financing to help these new companies and new business models, and the capacity to transform, because sometimes you need to finance as well, like the transformation from brown business model to green business model. Like you don't have to reinvent everything, but you have to help existing companies as well. But to do so, like finance needs some data, like which company is the right company to invest in, which one has a greater impact in that sector, and how should I like identify my investment strategies. Today is very difficult. Like there are some asset manager, they have 11 ESG data provider. Like it's a black box. You don't know where to find the information. And when you talk to private markets, private equities, they don't have any data. So today, to get this data, you need like external data, like your famous COP3. And for financial institutions, 95 or 99% of the emissions are coming from their investments. So for SWIP, like we are really at the heart of this ecosystem. We try to aggregate all the data and to give a 360 view of the investments. And for example, for a private equity firm, we will calculate very quickly a photo, a picture, a snapshot of the portfolio, and then identify the hotspots and where to focus on. Like, I need more accurate information. Send a survey to this portfolio company, but all the flow is through the platform. And that's really the role of finance, meaning that the investor license will help the portfolio company to start the climate journey with a free license. They will get their first carbon footprints. They will identify, okay, now I understand where are my emissions coming from, and they will start, building their business model on a very good ground, because they will understand, okay, maybe I should grow like that, and at the very beginning, they will take the good habits. Mm-hmm. So for us, we are a network approach. We help like the investors and investees to be together, and without a platform, you can't do that. Like technology, the SaaS platform will help to gather information across the value chain, consolidate the information very easily, and then when you calculate very often and very accurately, you can take actions. Like without an accurate picture, you can't take action. And now we need to reduce very quickly. As you said, IPCC said that we need to have a peak of emission in the next 3 years. So after that, we need to reduce and to have a net zero strategy. So without a platform, without technology, you can't have all this information at once.
Thanks. So Thomas, so we've had a very good explanation of how technology in InsurTech with data analysis, satellite imagery, but also in FinTech around just get the right data for the financial industry to take the right decisions. From your point of view, so I'm very curious to know, as you've seen a lot of climate companies that are leveraging on tech, what's your take on the tech aspect of the climate companies that you see?
So as a ministry, we implemented the Green Tech Innovation Initiative. We selected 100 of SMEs and startups. We select them only if they have a positive impact which provide to our public policies. We make them apply by categories. And 2 years ago, we decided to create a new category, sustainable finance. So what was our strategy? Firstly, we want that this main sector, finance sector, has to become carbon-free. So we want to help the sector, but we also want to attract a pure player of technology towards the finance, towards the green finance. This is the point. So this green tech innovation has quite good success, more and more popular. 60 applicants 2 years ago, and now nearly 300. But the number of startup SMEs which come toward us specifically on green finance is not so remain quite low. Few companies decide to seize the opportunity to get this label from the French government, specifically on finance. So we see all the technology movement you described on data, artificial intelligence, also blockchain, and neuronal science, etc. But we think that it could provide more to the finance sector. Another testimony, last week we organized Meetup Green Tech, which is the rendezvous of the French ecosystem of green tech. We were on Tuesday 1,200 attendees, startup, SMEs, researchers, public actors, experts, but very few people from finance. So our strategy at the state, by this tool of green tech innovation, it's to be more and more attractive for the pure players of data, AI, tech, and to implement more bond between finance and technology to have more and more green fintech. But we are very proud to see success as at Descartes, Underwriting, and Suite. We also gave our label to Greenly, Namer, Only One, Budget for Planet. So beautiful green fintech. And I will finish by the example of Namer. It's quite illustrative. So a French startup and expert on data and AI, not for finance, for housing, for the territories, with the same technologies that Tanguy shared. And this startup, 4 years after its creation, is now a player of the French fintech ecosystem. So we try to have more examples as Sweep, Descartes, and Namer, and we are quite optimistic because France has a lot of assets on academic excellence, on technology. So this could be more and more beneficial for finance. We hope so.
Okay, thanks, Thomas. So I'm very happy because I just learned something quite counterintuitive, which was the size of the climate fintech group within fintech. And so I'm very curious to know more about any maybe counterintuitive things that people don't have necessarily in mind when they think about climate fintech. Marianne, do you have any, or Tanguy, do you have anything to share?
Maybe something that is not completely intuitive is the fact that for the insurance industry, they really see climate change as the end of their industry. So it's not, I would say, a potential growth driver because they have to innovate and offer new products that will better cover people against disasters. They really think that in some cases they have to exit the market. If we take the reinsurance industry, the industry has not been profitable over the last 5 years. And it was prior to the Hurricane Ian. So some of you probably watched that on TV a month ago. There was a big hurricane that went through Cuba and then Florida. The total cost for the industry should be about 50 billion. So the industry was already unprofitable, and there are more and more events that basically make it almost uninsurable. So I know that lots of banks, lots of private equity firms, lots of VC companies see the climate insurance space as a very promising area. It is, but for the incumbents, it's more the last thing you should do to stay alive in the current market environment. Because it's very difficult to understand the impact of climate change. You talked about global warming, but it's not about global warming. It's really about a sharp increase in the frequency of weather anomalies. So it means that typically for floods, for wildfires, for landslides, it has increased by a factor of 4, 5, 6 over 50 years. So it's a massive impact. So for most of the current insurers, they are backward looking, so they look at historical data, and they don't detect the current trend. So they are completely panicked when they observe basically that, yes, there were like massive floods in Germany and Belgium last year. There will be also wildfires in the Nordics. If we look at historical data, it never happened. But if we look at soil moisture, wind shear, and typically temperature, there will be more and more wildfires also in Norway, in Sweden, in Finland. So it's more, I would say a word, they pressed the panic button a few years ago, so they are not willing to offer more capital. That's, again, not intuitive.
Okay, thanks. Marianne, do you have anything to share?
Yes, to complete a little bit what Tanguy was saying, I think when you talk to climate tech into fintech, I think it's not the same to sell, for example, the product to corporates or to financial institutions, because financial institutions, it's like an ecosystem by itself. Like climate, when you say climate risk is a financial risk or operational risk, that means that you need to translate that into models that the banks know how to deal with, like credit risk, market risk, everything that Tanguy was saying. Like you need to adapt your platform or what you sell to what they need, and especially when you talk about investment, meaning that you touch to the core business, like what does that mean for specific asset classes, to mortgages, to loans, to private equity, private debt, infrastructure. So you need to understand the ecosystem and need to be part of this ecosystem. And when you talk to a bank, you have to take into account the regulation. So you have to be part of understanding the regulation and to make sure that your product is compliant with the regulation. You have to make sure that in terms of data security, you're part of what is required as well for a bank. So, for example, we spend a lot of time to get the ISO or SOC 2 certification in terms of, you know, data security, where our data are stored, etc., because it's very key as well. So it's not the same to like any other like platform. You can plug it very easily. When you talk to banks or financial institutions, you have to make sure that you're part of this ecosystem and your product fits within the ecosystem. And that means that sometimes it's not very easy to open all the doors, because you have to show that you can play in the big room as well, and you understand their words and their pains and their pain points on a daily basis.
Okay, so for the founders here, don't forget to have a strong link to the incumbent ecosystem. I think that's a good wrapping up of this. Thomas, anything you want to share that is not necessarily intuitive?
I would like to deal with RegTech. I often read in the financial press the expression of a tsunami to describe all the regulatory, and it shows how the approach is defensive. And we think that the skills that the finance sector, the majors, the startup have developed to face and to adapt to all this regulatory could be an opportunity. What is at stake? We have to accelerate the funding for investment in green infrastructure, green services, green product. We must go faster. Our Prime Minister unveiled last Friday the France Green Nation Plan, France Nation Verte. So we have 22 sectors. At the same time, we must be able to finance all this investment. The finance excellence, the finance skills to face all this regulatory, the use to face all this constraint could be a tool for more innovation. We need a considerable, deep, rapid shift toward a green and innovative finance. And all these skills in the way to face RegTech could be a motor to have this acceleration on the finance trend on innovation.
Thanks, Thomas. That's a wonderful introduction to my next question, which is about relationship between public and private institutions. So here we have everybody in the same room. So the floor is open for any request or demand you have on the private sector side to the public one, and we'll do it. Of course, Thomas, you'll do the same afterwards. Tanguy, you want to start? Or?
Well, I think the main issue, at least in the insurance space, about I would say the public sector is more regulation. So I know it's not what Thomas is doing, but it's true that in my case, we have to be global because our clients are multinationals, and we need to be well diversified. So we need to be exposed to Australia, to Singapore, to Chile, to Colombia. So we need licenses, and we are just a team today of about 110 people, but we have more than 1,000 licenses. So it explains also the different barriers to entry. So it's very difficult to enter into the insurance space if you want to become a global player, because you have to handle all the regulatory hurdles. And if you are not, I would say, well experienced, well versed into regulatory constraints in the world, you have no chance to succeed. So there is definitely some improvements to make. Maybe it could be a sandbox, maybe it could be something else, to make sure that the startups with founders having not a very strong knowledge of insurance would have a chance to make it. Because today, if we look at least in my sector, the corporate insurance market, all the existing startups are actually more people coming from the industry. All the others, they tend to fail just because they don't understand that you need 1,000 licenses just to run your business, despite being a very small company overall. That's I know you're not the one in charge, but this is something that it's a message I can convey.
Is it the same for the fintech?
Yeah, I can let Thomas answer this one first.
So before being head of ECOLAB at the ministry, I was CEO of a small company, Liberté Living Lab, and before I was at Bercy. So I believe a lot in publicness, in hybridization between public and private sector. I understand what you say, but if we compare with other sector, France is already a champion, a leader of this hybridization in waste industry, in water industry, energy, transportation. We have worldwide leader companies, but they operate within the framework of public services. So we have a long history of benefit cooperation between public and private. We have the tool, we have the law for this. But if we deal with this in the scope of finance, it's true there is quickly this focus on regulatory. Perhaps that we should invent the same triangulation. We could compare with social impact bonds. Why not be able to build environmental impact bonds? So a cooperation, relationships that doesn't focus only on regulation and on the ability to regulation to be at the level that expects the sector, etc. I observe that this logic of hybridization and cooperation, of co-production, is quite more intensive in other sectors. And I believe that public finance has all the assets to do the same. It's the only sector which is involved on the acceleration of all the other sectors of the French economy, of all the society. So it is an opportunity. So perhaps think more co-production and not only regulation.
Okay. Marianne, anything to say in this conflict?
Yes, well, I will answer a question just after, but just to say, so the social impact bond is it's a great opportunity for social, but you've got also the sustainability linked bond or sustainability linked loans for like private markets, and typically what's there's a lot of greenwashing warnings around this kind of product because you know, sometimes it's a black box. When you've got like when you can quantify the impact, it's much easier in terms of transparency. So for example, on the platform, we can have sustainability linked loans when you target and your premium rate is depending on how what your reduction targets in terms of GHG emissions. So you calculate the baseline at the beginning of a loan, and each year, if you have to reduce by X%, you get your premium rate. But it's, as soon as you can quantify, I think it's easy and it's very readable for the markets. So I think it's an example on how we can have environmental impact bond, as you said. And then I think between public and private, today we need to have also like a seat of the table for like new actors. Sometimes when you've got like all the sustainability commission for like public institutions, you've got people coming from like industries for a very long time, but you don't have like a lot of new actors who maybe have new ideas to say, or because we are talking to a lot of different financial institutions, bank, asset manager, private equity firms. We can see the different difficulties they may experience during their daily business. So maybe we have something to say as well. So it's not so often easy to get a seat on the table to discuss all of that. So, but it's coming. I know there's a lot of commissions, and we need to do more. And I think it's great to be in France. I think it's we will discuss that a bit after, but. Regulation, of course, is a start, because with the Article 173 in 2050, that was the first country to add this climate-related disclosure, and of course, that would start a lot of things. And now we can see that, like, the wheel started over there, and other countries are catching up now. But yeah, it was great to have a regulation to give a little push at the beginning. And after, there's a lot of convergence expected of the markets and different markets globally, but at least, yeah, regulation is not only a constraint, but it can be seen as an opportunity. And that's part of the ecosystem, and I'm very happy to collaborate on that.
Yeah, I fully agree to what you said, and from what we see also at Future Positive Capital, in another topic is around circularity. So since the Loi AGEC in 2020, we are seeing a lot of new companies that are tackling those issues of circularity. And when I talk to companies outside of Europe, they're also very interested in what's happening in France, because this regulation has launched also innovation in circularity. So Marianne, you briefly evoked the topic of Paris. So we are all here in Paris. Very blunt question. I'm a founder, Climate Fintech. Shall I found my company in Paris?
Maybe I'll finish what I say, and after I leave the floor to Tanguy. I think in terms of products, we are very lucky to be a French-based company, because we are lucky to have like mature clients discussing climate strategy, climate emission, etc. Because we've got some competitors in the US, for example, and then design their product based on what is expected in the market, which is quite low in terms of expectation and granularity and climate strategy. I think in most of the markets, they're still at the carbon accounting, saying like very high level calculation of my emissions. But now in Paris and in Europe, we are more on the taking actions and reduction, and what is my target if I want to be net zero, if I want to be aligned 1.5. Like here, we are talking very, very interesting conversation with our clients, and we designed the product to be at that point of expectations. So we were quite lucky to be in France. After, it's just a question about fundraising. I think, of course, like the go-to-market is easier in the US, but it's just a perception, because Sweep, we raised $100 million in the last 12 months, which is quite a lot for like a French-based like fintech and climate tech. And yeah, so it's possible, it's doable, and in terms of climate, and yeah, we're quite lucky to be in Paris.
Okay. Yeah, so I may just add, so of course we should not be complacent, but for once I think we can really celebrate the fact that France benefits from a very good ecosystem. So I think the government managed to make sure that there would be enough funding through different vehicles. So definitely, I would say France, compared to other nations, tend to be well capitalized for startups. Of course, the largest funds are in the USA or in China, but we still have like a decent amount of funding for startups. At the same time, we have, I would say, the ability to attract talents also outside of France. So we have, as mentioned by Thomas, we have our own engineers, data scientists, DevOps that we need to operate. But if we need more people, and there is definitely a war for talents in the tech industry, the tech visas are a very powerful tool. Typically for me, I have 26 nationalities in my team to be able to attract talents from all over the world. And right now I'm trying to send people in the UK. In average, it takes 18 months to send Europeans in the UK if you're a licensed organization. So definitely we are winning in some dimensions. So again, we have to celebrate, and we know in France we tend not to celebrate that often. We should not be complacent, but we can be proud of the ecosystem. Now let's wait for 2023, potential recession, potential depression, and a very tense geopolitical world ahead of us.
Thomas?
I would like to add another way to answer your question. If I'm a founder on climate tech, fintech, I will benefit from all the advantage of the Paris Plus on finance. It's true, Paris is one of leader, but I will also benefit. Will take benefit on the French green tech ecosystem. We have 1,800 green tech. We are at third place in the European ranking. It's also the tech ecosystem, which is very interesting for founders. They could rely both on the asset of the finance sector and on the dynamism of French tech ecosystem, and specifically French green tech ecosystem. The government launched what we call the National Network for Green Tech Incubators. There are 30 structures, private and public, Vinci, Renault, L'Oréal, but also dozens of structures which are located in all the country. All those tech structure, tech incubators, tech accelerator are partnerships for founder in climate tech and fintech. So we have asset, but not only in the by the way of the finance dynamism, but also thanks to all the tech excellence and all those local ecosystem we have in France.
Thank you. We've been quite high level since this first 45 minutes. Now let's be very concrete and look at ourselves. And I will ask the panel to tell me about what they do as companies, as institutions, towards sustainability.
We have many PhDs in methodology or climatology, so it's a no-brainer for the team that we have to be very good at reducing our carbon footprint. And I think overall we are quite good. The only the elephant in the room for us is the fact that we are multinational. So we have 5 offices in the USA, 4 in Europe, 3 in Asia. And it's difficult not to meet with colleagues or meet with clients from time to time. So definitely the big issue for us is the emissions related to our flights. And in the USA, if you want to close a partnership with I would say a client in California, it's difficult to give a call from New York. In some cases it works, in some other cases it doesn't work. So for us, we had a debate internally about compensation. In the end, we said it's better than nothing, because we are still to travel from time to time, even if we are making some progress in that respect. We are selecting the right projects, we are defining the right budgets. So again, I know it's not perfect, but it's already, I would say we are going into the right direction, but we are not perfect by far.
Okay, good. So Marianne, as a carbon accounting company, I'm sure you have great things to say about that.
So when we created Sweep, we started right at the beginning to all the paperwork to be a B Corp company. So we are B Corp and entreprise à mission in France. So part of our status is and the mission we have legally is to reduce the emission of the planet. And it's very demanding on the day-to-day how to structure a company if you are a B Corp and entreprise à mission, because you've got an audit every year. So it's just, we are calculating our carbon footprint. We are a remote-first company. We start to have an office well in France and in the UK, but yeah, we try to see each other twice a year. So the last one, it was in Barcelona, and everybody took the train. But it's another way to travel, and it's still a nice experience. We spend a lot of time in the wagon bar, so it was nice to catch up with colleagues. But I understand that the more we grow internationally, and we have people, we already have people in the US, but like when we open an office in the US or in Asia, we will have the same issue as Tanguy. But yeah, right to be a B Corp and entreprise à mission, like besides just climate, there's a lot of requests around gender equality to make sure like the average wage of everyone, etc. So it's good because it structures a lot the well-being of our employees as well. So we try to lead by example as well on our the small size of a company, because we are almost 100 people as well. But yeah, so we try to do our part as well.
Thomas, are those kind of discussions present in your exchanges with the climate ecosystem in France?
Yes. One of the main topic is training. To be successful for this French ecological transition, we need women and men that are able to understand, to innovate, to imagine. So we launch a plan. 25,000 civil servants will follow a course on ecological transition. Our ministries started this 1 month ago with Valérie Masson-Delmotte, she is a famous French scientific of the IPC, GIEC. So we will do the same for the French civil servant. It's not so easy because one of the characteristics of ecological transition is all the scientific topic. So, even if all those people are very high level on business, finance, administration, law, not all of them have a scientific background. So we want to accelerate the level of the understanding of all the stakes of the ecological transition. So a huge training plan for the French civil servant and all the French civil servant after. 25,000 to start.
That's very good. So yeah, awareness is really something that also as a panel, I think it's one of the objectives of the discussion is to raise awareness on those topics. On this, so we've been told that also there's a lot of students on the webcast watching the video. So my question for you is, and I think it will be the last question, on a personal side, and I can start to launch the discussion. What is there an event or something that really triggered you to do what you do today? So personally, I'm an engineer by background, so I like to make calculations. So I'm always calculating the age of my son in 2050, when potentially climate change will have hit hard the planet, and he will be nearly my age. And so I keep thinking about, yes, I need to do something to look at him in the eyes. Anything you want to share on this?
Well, I agree with you. I mean, in my case, when you start having kids, you feel responsible much more about the future. I'm not saying that you don't think about what may happen in the next 200 years when you do not have kids, but it's really, it's easier, at least for a human being, to understand that they have responsibilities when there will be some continuity to some extent through a next generation. So, of course, you feel responsible about them. In my case, I think it was probably a mix of different factors, but something that could be, I mean, that was the case. Maybe it's a bit less the case today, but there was lots of greenwashing in the insurance industry. Lots of people talking about that, but if you look at the actions and if you look at, I would say, the communication, talk is cheap. So no, it's true, and it's difficult because it's going to be a very painful exercise. We know that we will all have to make lots of efforts, even more than what we do today, much more. So probably greenwashing was for me a way to say, okay, I can't just deal with that anymore.
Yeah.
Well, a bit of everything. Yeah, I'm a mom of 2 as well, so. And awareness is not easy because I have to explain every year to my daughter that eating strawberries in December is not very good. And yeah, so. But the school is very scary, because last time I told her that you don't eat fish anymore, and she told me like, no, I don't want to eat plastic, mom. You know, there's got plastic in their belly. I said like, what do they teach you at school? Because, but yeah, so we don't have to scare them too much either. But yeah, I agree. I've been working in the finance industry before, and sometimes you wear a lot of things, and you want to have a lot of impact, and maybe being in the new technology, you say like I will facilitate a lot the more transparency, more auditability, where you can actually quantify the impact. I think today there's a lot of greenwashing or accusation of greenwashing because you can't quantify. But as soon as we've got more transparency, consistency, and like when you've got a lot of information is key and data is key to know exactly where you are. And I agree, like you really want to have an impact and do that on a full time and for your kids and everything. So yeah, I think being a parent is a good responsibility as well. But yeah, we've got a lot of young people as well in the company, so they were aware before that.
Okay.
So I'm a civil servant. I work for general interest, and in my perspective, climate stakes are directly linked with social stakes, social inequalities. All of this is the same matrix. So acting for general interest, for me, it means acting for ecological transition. And in the present, as you said in your introduction, Vincent, we already have 4 billion of people who are affected by ecological transition, but so it's not 2050, it's now, it is the present. So it's a huge responsibility. As an expert of public and private innovation since 20 years, I think that innovation could be a part of the solution, not the magic tool, but a part of the solution. So that's my motivation to help to accelerate this. But I analyze society with the ecological challenge at the center, both for social, training, culture. All the society is now focused on this, and we are. It's compulsory. We must manage. So we need you. We need innovators. We need trainers. We need engaged citizens. We also need a civil servant. That's the way I am working on this, and I think it's a global responsibility. Sometimes it's quite could be a bit scaring, but we will do it.
Okay, so let's act. I want to thank the audience and the panelists for this very good discussion. And I hope we'll have also good conversations offline after this panel. So thank you, everybody.